Hey there, my name's Dave and welcome to another Guitar Zero to Hero song tutorial. In this lesson, I'll be teaching you how to play Island in the Sun by Weezer, which is an awesome tune. It really gives you those tropical beach summer vibes. For the basics, you'll just need a guitar and standard tuning. You won't need a capo. In this lesson, I'll teach you both the rhythm and lead guitar parts. I'll be using a HSS Strat from Fender's standard series in this lesson. This is their most affordable range yet, but sounds great as you'll hear in this lesson. Now, if you want to master your chords back to front, then be sure to head over to guitarzerotohero.com to pick up my free guitar ebook. Or if you're fairly new to guitar and you're looking to build a strong and solid foundation, but you don't know where to start, then check out the Guitar Zero to Hero Premium course and membership, which gives you all the guidance to play with confidence. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Let's jump into the lesson. I'm going to start off by teaching you all of Rivers Cuomo's parts, and this is a mixture of rhythm and lead. And in the second half of this video, I'll teach you Brian Bell's guitar parts, which is just rhythm. And that's going to be really great for the beginners out there who just want some simple chords to strum and sing along to. Let's start off with the intro, which is the main riff of this song, which is a lot of fun to play. It's based off a whole bunch of triad shapes. I'll explain what that means in a moment. For this guitar tone, I'm just using a Strat here on the bridge pickup position, and it's just a clean amp channel, but with the gain pushed fairly high, so it's sort of on the edge of breakup, which means if we play it fairly hard, you can kind of get a little bit of distortion out of your tone. First off, what we have is an E minor. To play that, it's basically a D minor chord shape, but we're shifting it up 2 frets. So middle finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, ring finger on the 5th fret of the 2nd, and index finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. That's our first chord shape, and then we're going to go to an A minor triad. Now from this position, keep your ring finger where it is, just slide your middle finger up 1 fret, and pinky finger will come onto the 5th fret of the 1st string. So that's an A minor triad. Now for this first 2 chords, we have a strumming pattern that goes like this. Down, down, up, down, down. All right, so down, down, up, down, down. Now that final down strum I have in brackets because that can kind of be played as a transitional strum as you get to the next chord, which is a D chord shape like this. Again, for the E minor to the A minor, down, down, up, down, down. So on the final up strum of this bar, we're going to go to the D chord. And that's on an up strum. We hold that out until the end beat after the 1 in the next bar with the up, down. Right, so up, down. And then we're going to change chords again on another up strum and go to a G triad like this. So we're going to bar our index finger across the 3rd fret of the 1st and 2nd string, and middle finger comes onto the 4th fret of the 3rd string. And that's played with a up, down, down. So the D to the G, up, down, up, down, down. And notice again how that final strum of the D, I have that in brackets because it can kind of be a transitional strum where you can sort of just hit muted strings as you change to the G. Down, down, down. We put all 4 triads together and it will sound like this. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, down. And played in succession. Now, you might be wondering, how am I playing those triads so clean without having the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings ringing out whilst I'm strumming? Well, it's very subtle, but I'm doing a few muting techniques with my fretting hand. So with this E minor shape, what I'm actually doing is when I'm fretting that 4th fret of the 3rd string, I'm having my middle finger up the slightest amount so it's actually touching the 4th string. And that way, if you accidentally hit the 4th string, it's going to be muted. And for the 6th and 5th string, I'm using my thumb to lightly reach over and touch those strings so that those strings are muted as well. And that way you just get a clean E minor even if you happen to strum all the strings. Just those top 3 strings ringing out. Now with the A minor, I shift there and I'm just using my index finger here to lightly touch across all the other strings. For the D, I do something similar to the E minor. But if you happen to hit the open 4th string there, that's okay as well because it is part of the D chord. And for the G, I'm using my free ring finger to touch the 5th and 4th strings. So all together again. So that's for the intro, which is the main riff of the song. In the intro, that line of tabs is repeated through twice. A little bit of background about these triad chord shapes. Feel free to skip this if you want, but I think it's pretty interesting to know where these shapes actually come from. So with the E minor, as I mentioned before, it's the same shape as a D minor, but because we're shifting everything up 2 frets, that's why it's an E minor. Just these 3 strings, we have D minor, D sharp minor, E minor. Now for the A minor triad shape, where does that come from? Well, if you play an open E minor chord shape, just take the top 3 open strings of the E minor and we're going to shift that up. So E minor, F minor, F sharp minor, G minor, G sharp minor, A minor. For the D chord, that's the same as a D chord. And for the G chord, we're taking the top 3 strings of a 6th string major bar chord. So take a look at your F major bar chord, and we're just taking the top 3 strings out of that and shifting it up to F sharp, G. And that's where those chord shapes originate from. Let's move on to the verse, and Rivers plays some basic power chords here when he plays this live. So we're going to start with an E5, so just put your index finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and we're going to hit the 6th and 5th string. And we're only focusing on that. The 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings can all be muted, and you can do that by lightly resting your index finger across all those strings as you're fretting the 5th. So that's our first power chord, E5. Then we're going to A5. Now I like to play this with my index finger on the 5th fret of the 6th string and pinky finger on the 7th fret of the 5th string. Again, rest your index finger lightly across all the other strings below the 6th string, and they'll all be muted. So that's A5, and then we move this shape to the 5th and 4th strings to play a D5. To mute the 6th string, you can use one of your free fingers here to lightly touch it, or you can use the tip of your index finger to lightly touch the 6th string as it's fretting the 5th string. So that's D5, and then G5, which is back on 6th and 5th strings at the 3rd and 5th fret. Now each chord is just played with a down, down, up strumming pattern, or 1 and 2 and. So that will sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And in succession. Now notice again the final upstrum for each chord I have in brackets because you can kind of have them as either open strings or muted notes as you transition to the next chord. Next, let's get to the chorus, which is where Rivers kind of plays a bit more of a lead guitar line. We go up to the 9th fret of the 3rd string and 8th fret of the 2nd string with our ring and middle fingers. Now we're just going to alternate between these 2 strings, 3rd and 2nd, again and again for the full bar, and we're plucking at 8th notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I like to pluck that with a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. For the 2nd bar, we take our index finger, bar across the 7th fret of the 3rd and 2nd strings, continue with that picking pattern for half a bar, 1 and 2 and for the second half of this bar, put our middle finger on the 8th fret of the 2nd string and continue on. 3 and 4 and. So those 2 bars together, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Those 2 bars are just repeated through 4 times, and that's it for the pre-chorus riff, which is a lot of fun to play. After the first chorus, there's a break, which is the same as the intro, but just played through once and not twice. Then there's verse 2 and chorus 2, which is the same as verse 1 and chorus 1. And then we jump into where the distortion guitar kicks in. In terms of the tone, I'm still using my clean amp channel, but I've just added a distortion pedal in front of it. Again, if you want a link to the Boss Katana tone patches I'm using, they'll be in the description. We're just playing a whole bunch of power chords here, really nice and simple. So for the first power chord, we're playing a D5, which we had in the verse, so 5th fret of the 5th string and 7th fret of the 4th string. Again, I'm going to play this with my index and pinky finger, but you can use your index and ring finger if you want as well. We're going to play this chord with a and then go down to our G5 with the same strumming pattern. The third and the fourth bar are identical to the first and second bar, so just a repetition of the D5 and G5. So the first line of tab. Then for the second line of tab, we go to a C5. So from the G5, we just shift to the 5th and 4th strings with that power chord shape. Play that for one strumming pattern. Then to our A5, which is 5th and 7th fret of the 6th and 5th string. And then we move back to our D5 for 2 strumming patterns. So the second line of tab. And in total. After that is another break, which just returns to that main riff on a clean guitar tone. And then we have the solo. So we return back to our distorted guitar tone, and there's 2 lines of tab for this solo. And it's fun to play and sounds really great. We're gonna start on the 7th fret of the 3rd string, up to the 9th fret, and back down to the 7th fret. And this starts on the end beat after the 3. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we go down to 5th and 4th, and then 5th and 4th again with middle and index. And so far, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... For the next lick, we're going to start with the open 3rd string, and then 4th fret of the 3rd string, and then down to 2nd. Again, this is played on the end beat after the 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and our next 2 notes are open 3rd string and then 4th fret of the 4th. And for the final 2 notes, we take our ring finger up to the 5th fret of the 4th string. So the 3rd and 4th bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the first line of tab, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now the second line of tab is basically identical. There's just 2 minor changes to some of these notes. The first change is the first note. So instead of hitting the 7th fret of the 3rd string, we're going to hit the open 3rd string and then go up to 9th and 7th. So that's the first little change, and then the final change is in the 3rd bar. Instead of starting off with the open 3rd string, we're starting off with the open 4th string, and then 4th and 2nd. So, and the second line of the tab in total. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and the solo in total. 1, 2, 3, and 4, that final note is held out for the next 2 bars of music in the chorus, and then Rivers changes back to his clean tone and jumps back into the chorus riff on the 3rd bar, which you've already learnt. So that's what he does live. In the studio recording, the guitars are overdubbed, so they overlap one each other, but in a live setting, that's what Rivers does. And then there's the outro, which is the same as the intro riff, just played through again and again. And that's everything for Rivers Cuomo's guitar parts. All right, so now I'm going to teach you all of Brian Bell's guitar parts. This is great for beginners out there who are just starting out and are looking to practice their open chord shapes, transitions, and basic strumming. There's only 2 chord progressions that we need to learn for this whole song, which is great. For this first chord progression, there's 4 chords. We have an E minor chord. Now I'm going to play this with my index and middle finger on the 2nd frets of the 5th and 4th strings. because it's going to make our transition to the next chord, the A minor, really simple, because we just pivot around the middle finger, which is already on the second fret of the fourth string, and then go to our A minor from the E minor like that. Now with the A minor chord, you only want to strum from the fifth string onwards. You really want to keep that sixth string muted, and I do that by lightly touching the sixth string with my thumb, reaching over the top like that. You don't have to reach over a whole lot to do that, just the tiniest bit of your thumb making contact with that sixth string will mute it. So that's A minor, then we go to a D major chord. Again, it's very important to mute that sixth string in D chord. If you happen to hit a fifth string, that's okay, but we'll focus from the fourth string onwards. And then finally, we have a G chord. So from the D chord, pivot around your ring finger and play that G chord. The first two chords are contained within one bar, and they're each played with a down, down, up. So the first bar, E minor to the A minor, down, 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 up. Or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and for the D to the G, we're going to continue on with that strumming pattern for the D. When we get to the G, we're going to just play a down, up, down, up. And for the D to the G, down, down, up, down, up, down, up. Or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. We put that all together and the main chord progression simply sounds like this. Now the only other chord progression we need to learn is the bridge, which is really nice and simple. There's two lines of chords here. We're going to start with a D, and we're going to play this with a down, down, up, down, up, down, up strumming pattern. Again, it's all just at eighth notes, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then to a G for one strumming pattern, back to the D, and back to a G for another strumming pattern. So the first line of chords. Then for the second line of chords, we have a C, an A minor, and then a D major for 2 bars of music. That's it for the bridge chord progression, which will simply sound like this. And that's everything for the rhythm guitar, which is really nice and simple. So now I'll be doing 2 playthroughs of the song with a vocal track on top for some context. The first playthrough will be all the lead guitar parts played on the electric, and the second playthrough will be all the rhythm guitar parts played on the acoustic guitar, really suitable for the beginners out there who are just starting out. A big thanks to my friend Eric for lending his awesome vocals to this playthrough. Feel free to play these back as many times as you'd like to practice, play along to, and see how you go.
All the things that
Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this lesson, then I know you'll absolutely love these other lessons too. So hit the link here. Or if you want to grab a copy of my free guitar ebook, then head over to guitarzerotohero.com or click the link here. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time on Guitar Zero to Hero. Cheers.